Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Licensing Committee. My name is James Gibson. I'm the chair of the Licensing Committee. I shall now go around and ask members to introduce themselves, starting from the left, please.
Good morning, everyone. Morning, Chair. Councillor Sharon Hamilton, Meanwood and Moortown Ward.
Good morning, everybody. Councillor Jordan Bowden, Roundhay.
Morning, Isaac Wilson, Councillor for Wheatwood Ward.
Hello, Councillor Kate Haig, Farnley and Wortley.
Morning, everyone. Councillor Tom Hinchcliffe, Bramley and Stanley Ward.
Morning, everyone. Lisa Martin, Councillor for Roundhay Ward.
Morning, Councillor Ed Carlisle for Hunslet and Riverside.
Good morning, Councillor Dawn Seary, Pudsey Ward.
Good morning, Councillor Neil Buckley, Old Woodley Ward.
Morning, Councillor Rick Downs, Otley and Yeadon Ward.
Magic, if I can ask officers to introduce themselves now, starting with you, Rob.
Robert Brown, Legal Services.
Sue Duckworth from Entertainment Licensing.
Nicola Raper, Entertainment Licensing.
Richard Perrick, Taxi Licensing.
And Helen Gray, the Clerk to the Committee.
Thank you very much and welcome, everybody. Just remind everybody that we are live webcast, so members of the public can see us. Please bear that in mind when we're talking. I'll ask Helen now to go through agenda items number 1 to 5, please.
Thank you, Chair. Under agenda item number 1, there are no appeals against refusal of inspection of documents. Agenda item number 2, there are no items which require the exclusion of the press or the public. Agenda item 3, we've got no formal late items added to the agenda, but a supplementary pack containing an updated Appendix 1 to item 7 of the agenda was published and has been circulated to members. Item number 4, could I ask members to disclose any interests you may have? I can't see any, thank you. Under agenda item number 5, we've received apologies for absence from Councillor Farley, Councillor Pogson Golden and Councillor Senior, and from Mr Mulcahy, the Chief Officer Elections and Regulatory.
Great, thank you so much. So we'll move on to agenda item number 6. Are we all happy with the minutes? Anybody would like to raise any matters arising from the minutes? I don't see anybody indicating, in which case we shall move on to agenda item number 7, which is the report into the cumulative impact assessment and its permission to consult. I'll hand over to Sue now, please. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. This is the 3-yearly review of the cumulative impact assessment for Leeds. It comes to you twice. It comes to you now at this early stage because I'm requesting permission to consult with the public and businesses, and then it will come back to you in November once we've done the consultation with the responses, any responses that we receive and any outcomes from that. We've had a CIA in Leeds since 2005, and it has developed over the years. We currently have 7 CIA areas, including the city centre, Headingley, Hyde Park, Armley, Hare Hills, Holbeck, and recently from last year, Beeston. We have looked at the crime statistics and the health matrix, or the risk matrix that's provided to us by Public Health, and we have also looked at evidence from agencies and residents who have provided some additional information. And if you'll just bear with me, I'll just very quickly run through the outcomes of the assessment. So the city centre assessment covers Little London and Woodhouse and Hunslet and Riverside wards. It is the whole of the city centre that is inside the inner ring road and then down to the river. It has the highest crime levels in Leeds, as you'd expect, being the city centre, especially alcohol-related assault and public order offences. The saturation of licensed premises is the issue here. It is the sheer number of people in the city centre that causes the problem. We have red zones that are around the Core Lane, Lower Briggate and Duncan Street area, and then we have another red zone which is up here, which is Merrion Street up Woodhouse Lane. If I can highlight some of the data sets, this MSOA ranks first out of 107 in Leeds for alcohol-related harm. There was 15,831 crimes over 3 years, and the peak hours for the city centre are 11 till 2 a.m. We've got Briggate and Core Lane, who are the top streets for crime and nuisance, and we deal with refusal for new and variation applications in the red zones. So anybody making an application in a red zone will receive representations generally from the police, ourselves as the licensing authority, and environmental health. If they are planning to sell alcohol on the premises during the peak hours, which is 11 till 2. We will make a representation and we generally bring the matter to licensing subcommittee for determination. We were asked this year to look at antisocial behaviour in the city centre as well, especially around the bus station. We have seen an increase in dependent drinkers using the city centre. And we have found that we have got some antisocial behaviour hotspots around the market area and around the bus station. And so we've included a little bit in the CIA this time around applicants who want off sales around those ASB hotspots. And what we've said at this point, because we haven't got any definitive evidence that we would face, those applications would face additional scrutiny, we would expect a better quality application. Moving on to Headingley. This is, we recently increased the size of the Headingley CIA to include the top end of the Otley Run. That includes the Three Horseshoes, the New Inn and Woodies. We have a high level of antisocial behaviour in Headingley linked to the Otley Run pub crawl. We have quite a lot of resident fatigue around reporting incidents. As ward members from that area will know. That shows in the crime figures. You'll see the crime figures are actually quite low, and that is not reflective of the issues that we are experiencing there. I've added in quite a lot of information that we receive from residents. I have got some more to go in, which will go in before the consultation from our antisocial behaviour team around the calls for service that they have. I only got that information at the last problem-solving group, so that's to go in. We experienced 614 crimes over 3 years, and Otley Road is the top street for crime, and there was 122 nuisance incidents, increasing alcohol-related nuisance. So we would presume there would be a presumption of refusal for applications during the Otley Run peak hours, and we would be looking for applicants to offer additional measures around fancy dress, Otley Run participation, litter, and so on. And there'd be strong likelihood of representation from all the responsible authorities. Moving on to Hyde Park, this is a residential area with a high student population, but it also has quite a high family population. This is quite densely populated. There's a saturation of off licences and late night takeaways. We've got quite a lot of noise nuisance and street parties and alcohol-related crime in Hyde Park. And there is some tension between student housing and family housing, which is why in this area we concentrate on premises that are seeking a licence for off sales after midnight. It's the 24-hour off sales is the thing that we're most concerned with in Hyde Park. Armley Town Street. Armley has had a CIA for a number of years, since 2018. Armley Town Street suffers from a high number of habitual drinkers, dependent drinkers, and there's a high density of off licences selling strong, cheap alcohol in Armley. The area is perceived as unsafe by residents, and we find that there's reports of intimidation from those groups of people standing and drinking in the street. This area ranks second highest in Leeds, so it's a very high-risk area. We've had 770 crimes over 3 years, and Town Street is the top street. Again, we are looking at a presumption for refusal for all new and variation applications for off sales. We want applicants to show that they're not going to add to the community of impact in the area. Moving on to Hare Hills. Hare Hills community of impact area runs down the full length of Hare Hills Lane, along Hare Hills Road, Compton Road and along Roundhay Road. It includes some residential areas just around that because we find that the off licences are moving into residential. There's some overspill. The issues here are street drinking, we have some youth nuisance and some alcohol-related crime, and we feel that vulnerable children are disproportionately affected in this area. There were 8,241 crimes over 3 years, and Hare Hills Lane is the top street. Again, we concentrate on off licences in this area, and there would be a presumption of refusal for off licences and late night refreshment during in that area. Holbeck is an area that's really domestic street, Topmoor side and the surrounding residential areas. It's a high density of licensed shop in quite a very small geographical area. We have a lot of vulnerable adults and children in Holbeck, and that is the purpose of the CIA there. We actually haven't had to use it since it's been put in place, so we suggested it just remains as it is. That area ranks 8th highest in Leeds, so it's a very high risk area with 980 crimes over the 3 years, with Topmoor side, which is the main retail street, as the top street. Again, presumption of refusal for off sales at any time. And then finally, Beeston, which is our newest CIA. This is Dewsbury Road, Tempest Road and Beeston Road, that area just before Crossflats Park. The issue here is street drinking, begging, drug use and sex work. There's a high density of off licences and takeaways in that area, and this is having a significant impact on schools, families and community safety. It ranks 6th and 7th out of 107 MSOA, so it's very high risk again. The crime and nuisance is concentrated on Dewsbury Road, and we have multiple agencies reporting persistent issues despite the interventions that are ongoing in Beeston. And again, we're concentrating here on off sales and late night refreshment, and late night refreshment is specifically around litter. But we do have southern Beeston, there's the other side of Crossflats Park, which we keep under review, that hasn't shown any increase since the CIA has been in place. So that's a very quick rundown of a 30,000 page evidence pack. Yes, sorry about that. And as I say, it's we're here really to ask if we've got permission to consult. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue, and thanks for all your efforts and the efforts of the team in putting this together. It's really important work. It's proved really valuable. I'm sure all the members on this committee have come into contact with this through their work on licensing subcommittees and appreciate just how important the work is. I'll open up to questions. I should imagine you've got a question, Councillor Buckley. Councillor Downs, Councillor Martin. Anybody else? Haig. Carlisle. And Councillor Ali. Wow, okay, good. So Councillor Buckley, Downs, Martin, Haig, Carlisle, Ali, in that order, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I've got 2 or 3 questions, but I'll be brief. Page 133 of the original, yeah, mentions a slow increase of off licences premises in the cumulative impact area, and I just wondered, how is this possible? How is there a slow increase? Because we're not giving out any more licences for these things, and they're being shut down as fast as we can manage. So how is there a slow increase? And then on page 136, there's reference to a resident describes the problems he faces on a daily basis. And he's talking about Eden Supermarket on Dewsbury Road, where a thief has ignored him when he tried to stop him taking 2 bottles of wine. He had pleaded with him, but he just walked out with it. And this is a regular happening. And I just wondered, what on earth are the police doing about shoplifting? Because it's becoming a real problem. And then finally, on page 149, just bear with me. There's a letter from a resident who complains that there is, and this is rather disgusting actually, I don't know which, I think this is Hunslet and Riverside, and he complains that there is currently a large lump of virtually liquid human excrement in Aldi car park. And he goes on, there's a full paragraph about this, but it just seems to be unbelievable that this has not been dealt with, doesn't it? I know this is strictly not a licensing matter, but if I can just make those points, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I will bring in Sue in a second. I mean, look, you know, as you know, Councillor Buckley has been on the subcommittees that CIAs are not an iron curtain, and so that may explain why there may be some increase, and regardless of the approach that you've taken around closing down some of the licensed premises that have been operating illegally. And just on shoplifting, again, it's not a matter for licensing. And you're quite right. We have seen a huge spike since about 2021. I'm looking at a graph now. It's sort of plateaued off, but since 2021, after the pandemic, we saw a massive increase in shoplifting up and down the country. And fortunately, it seems to have plateaued off. But that is a matter for the police. But it's something that's been going on for a long time. I'll bring in Sue.
The evidence of slow increase of off licences was related to the Holbeck CIA, which is not somewhere that we have dealt with like we have in Hare Hills, where we've been revoking licences. So we actually haven't used the CIA in Holbeck, so there hasn't been any increase since the last time you looked at this CIA. I'll amend that paragraph.
Could I just come back on that?
That's page 133. Sorry, that's.
So why haven't we used the CIA?
Because we haven't had any applications in Holbeck.
But what about closing them down?
We haven't done any of that work in Holbeck. That's been concentrated in Hare Hills, Armley and other areas around Leeds, but not in Holbeck. And as Councillor Gibson says, sadly, shoplifting and excrement isn't something we deal with in licensing. I do know that the excrement comment was relating to Beeston, and I know that agencies are doing a lot of work in Beeston around environmental action and dealing with litter, and that's why we've included late night takeaways in our CIA, is because of the concerns around littering and generally the street scene in Beeston.
I think Councillor Buckley just raised an important and good point there around Beeston and Holbeck. We've had some really good results in Hare Hills ward with our clear hole build strategy. I'm sure Councillor Ali will be able to attest and speak to that later on, but perhaps something that we need to look at in other areas of the city, and perhaps this is one of them, if that's the point you were raising. I entirely agree, Councillor Buckley. Councillor Downs.
Thanks, Chair. First of all, an error in the document on page 8 of the version that I'm looking at, where the paragraph prior to where it says 3 yearly reviews near the bottom, it says in 2022 the city centre section of the CIA reviewed, and in 20,254, which is about 20,000 years in the future, a new area of Leeds was determined to be suffering, and that should read 2024. Yeah, got it? Yeah.
Say that we're not forward thinking.
Just to prove that I have read the document. The only other comment I was going to make was I was under the impression, having read the document and the agenda, that all we're here to do today is to approve the consultation, not to go through it in finite detail. We'll do that when it comes back to us. So the only comment I was going to say was, having read the document, it shows how important CIAs are, and that I fully welcome this, and that we should press forward and consult, and I look forward to November when it comes back to scrutinising it, but it's showing that the work is good and appropriate.
You're right. I'm not going to deny councillors' opportunity to sort of have two bites of the cherry on this one if they want to, but your comments are entirely right, Councillor Downs. You know, we will get a chance to go through this again. Councillor Martin.
Yeah, just briefly again, just to support the work on CIAs and the work that you've done on that we've done on tailoring specific CIAs to specific problems in areas. It's really good. I mean, I know anecdotally through sitting on many licensing subcommittees about the value of CIAs and the power that gives to communities to keep their communities safer, and hearing from individual evidence. But it's good to see all of the data laid out about what the effect is. So, you know, we hear about it anecdotally, but it's good to see it all written down. So, yes, thank you. I support going ahead with the consultation. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Martin. Councillor Haigh, please.
Thank you. And just to echo that, and I think, you know, there's perhaps a piece of work to be done about actually, you know, informing residents more, especially the city centre area, because I think that people will then feel that, you know, they can make a difference by raising issues as and when they arise. And, you know, I'm regularly, as we all are, in the city centre and seeing the impact that makes, and also when we sit on subcommittees. There is just one little question about page 37 of the document, which says the city centre sits in the Hunslet and Riverside ward, but of course north of Boar Lane, that is not in Hunslet and Riverside. I'm sure Councillor Ray would be very alarmed to find out it suddenly reacquired most of the city centre. So, and Councillor Iqbal and Councillor Clark, sorry, yes, and Councillor Iqbal, I did mention him, yeah, but he'd be particularly alarmed. Others have a more robust approach.
Yeah, just to confirm that Hunslet does have three councillors. It isn't a fiefdom of one particular councillor. Yeah, fair enough, and that's totally understandable. Sue, do you want to answer that?
No, I'll double check, make sure I've got it right. Yeah. Thank you.
I believe it's in Little London and Woodhouse. Some of it, but quite a lot of it.
Read your packs, haven't you? You've all gone over it with a fine tooth comb. Fair enough. Councillor Carlyle, please.
Yeah, I appreciate we are here mainly just to sign off the consultation, but I did just want to add a couple of things, and this echoes something Councillor Haigh said a minute ago. So I think it's especially, you know, when you hear some of these stories, and when we all in our community see the impact of licensed venues, it's very easy to just zone in on the negatives. But I suppose there are two cases, one of them in the Cool Lane cumulative impact zone, where officers did some kind of listened to residents around their concerns, and I'm not sure officers even. I didn't feel like the officers felt like it would make any difference, but it has made a difference. And I suspect the residents haven't come back to you and said, "Oh, the tweaks that you made and the modifications that the venue seem to have made a difference." So I guess that's worth telling. And there was also a particular venue. It was just as the CIA was coming in, but there's a particular venue which was creating a lot of late night noise on Dewsbury Road, and again, like, it was switched to a different owner, and that's no longer the case. So I think it's important that we see the positives and we amplify the stories as well, because otherwise people only see the negatives, whereas actually if we communicate the important work that licensing is doing, then people have obviously have confidence in it, and then they bother to consult, and then they bother to report, and then we get more information, can take more action, and so on. So I just think kind of shifting perception around communities, around the work that licensing can do, is really, really important. This is maybe for another conversation. I was interested to see about one particular venue trying to get in on the Otley run by stealth, and I wondered what that looked like, and I wondered what we could do about it. I welcome the bus station zone coming into it, because certainly, although it is ever so fractionally in the Little London ward, it's certainly something that comes to me quite a lot. And finally, a question was, I'm sure it said somewhere that the, whilst we might sign off to do the consultation, I'm sure it said somewhere was that we could either do a very big consultation or quite a small consultation. And I suppose my question was, what are we thinking we're going to do? A very big and therefore more labour-intensive one, or something more slimline and smart? I don't know.
With the consultation, we generally do the same thing each time. We write to every licensed premises. We send out a bulletin to over 1,000 sign-ups. We consult with all ward members, MPs, and any resident support groups that I've got details for. So we try and make it as wide as possible. We're definitely consulting with the businesses that are affected, and the residents are affected by one way or another. What we don't do anymore, because we found that actually it had very little result, was we don't do like road shows anymore. They're expensive, and they don't actually elicit too many comments. Having said that, I believe I am speaking to the Headingley residents about their CIA. So, but yes, generally it's by email and by letter, publicity through our comms team. And it's an open-ended, just write in your comments. We don't do a questionnaire or anything anymore.
So, and maybe the consultation needs to be more kind of cold than this, but I just wonder that if you are consulting, is there an opportunity to say, here are some of the things, here is a very short taste on why we're proud of the work we're doing and the positives that this can do, just so that people aren't just seeing a cold online form, presumably, or something, just something that makes them think, oh, actually, maybe licensing is doing more than we anticipated. And then also, is there something about, maybe this is really obvious, but like social media, and not just on the council pages, but actually proactively putting it in just certain big, like, any corner of the city will have certain big Facebook groups with thousands of members on.
That's kind of why we consult with all the ward members, because they're certainly far more tied in with their social media than we are.
Morning, Sue. Thank you, as the Chair has said, that some of the work that has taken place in Gibden and Hare Hills, we wouldn't have be able to where we are today. And it's a multi-agency approach. Councillor Buckley mentions that around the shoplifting and the police is still ongoing with certain things. There's very little I can discuss at this present moment. Police never actually go away. Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, DWP, licensing, all of the partners, DVLA, actually do go away, but the police never goes away, the community never goes away. And the impact it has on genuine lives and genuine businesses, where it takes revenue away from those, so it could go back into the policing, schools, NHS. It's a daily battle, I'm afraid. But my question, Sue, has been around the fancy dress. We've had quite a few licenses come through, and some of the conditions placed on those licenses not to allow individuals in fancy dresses into the venue. Why is that, may I ask, please?
So that's specifically in Headingley, and it's around the Otley Run. And it is a way of identifying people that are on the Otley Run. Those premises that have got those conditions are generally agreed between agencies and the applicant. I know that we've done 2 just recently on Otley Road, and both have offered those kind of conditions. It's been a choice. They don't want to participate in the Otley Run or be seen to be participating in the Otley Run, and therefore they will have notice up saying no fancy dress and so on. But that's their choice.
Just on a final note, we wouldn't have been where we are with the CIA and the multi-agency approach, and just want to thank every single one individual organisation involved. We do have 63 statutory partners that sit on the Clayhall build, which my ward colleague, Councillor Arif, chairs. But as you've said that you will move on to Hunslet and Riverside ward, you're looking at Dewsbury Road, and these are impacts of you will measure as you go along, and we wouldn't have been a better place for where we are in Gibden and Hare Hills, and thank you for your work.
Thank you very much for your comments, Councillor Ellie. Councillor Wilson, please.
My name? Sorry. Thank you very much for this. Obviously, I'm particularly interested in the Headingley area, including part of Wheatwood's CIA. But I have a more general comment as well. As you know, we've set up a problem-solving group for tackling the Otley Run, which you put a lot of work into, so thank you. And at the most recent of those meetings, right at the end of the meeting, there was some data presented by a couple of the councillors who had worked with Imogen McHarg around where they had managed to successfully correlate the time of day of health incidents, basically, with the Otley Run. And it was very powerful data, and you mentioned resident fatigue with reporting, and that data, more clearly than anything else I've ever seen, showed the impact of the Otley Run on people's health. So I guess the first thing is, if the consultation, if evidence is important in the consultation beyond what the public say, then I think that would be an important source of evidence. Whether that needs to go into a consultation or not, I don't know. And then generally, you know, for informing where we have cumulative impact assessments and for the existing ones, I think that exercise could be done again, perhaps working with Imogen's team to look at, you know, the... I mean, it really was very stark. There were people who, you know, had been admitted to hospital with some very serious ailments, including people who've, you know, suffered sexual assault and things like that, that have not necessarily been reported to the police. So I think it's a really important data set for us to use for these cumulative impact assessments. So that's a comment really, but and maybe a suggestion for how we consult on it. But yeah, thank you very, very much for everything you're doing on it. Much appreciated.
That specific data is the data that I've still got to put in, that I said that I was going to be adding, because yeah, we only saw sight of that the other day, so yeah.
I know it was literally a week, probably less than a week.
Less than a week ago, yeah.
Good, and can we make the request perhaps if Imogen's, I mean it's difficult if she's got capacity, but maybe that's something we could look at with other CIAs to get that data set. So we'll take that forward, that's in the minutes, isn't it, as a suggestion, please. Councillor Bowden then, please.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, firstly, it's I think it's a testament to the work we've been doing over a number of years, and the document's very positive. But if I could, Chair, I will take a bite of the aforementioned cherry. I do think there is an element that I would like to see maybe another red zone in the city centre, specifically sort of Merrion Street, New Briggate, where if you look at on the geospatial analysis, there is quite a high level of assault related to alcohol and sort of public nuisance related to alcohol. And when you think about sort of the density of that small area of the bars on Merrion Street, the bars opened up on New Briggate, I'd be interested to know whilst on the geospatial analysis, it's clearly showing that it might warrant a red zone in that area. Do we have the data of what the difference is of the assaults in that sort of area I've mentioned compared to some of the other areas where we have red zones? Thank you.
So we always keep Merrion Street under review because of the nature of it. And in fact, when Merrion Street was being developed 4 or 5, 6 years ago, that's something that myself and the police, we keep a very close eye on it. What I will say is that Merrion Street doesn't figure in the top streets. That part of Merrion Street. We are aware that all the premises down there work together, and we believe that makes the difference in that area, that it actually keeps crime and disorder lower so that they don't figure in the top streets. We keep our eye on it. The minute that it does, it will be another red zone. But that's most, and the same. We do the same with Greek Street as well, because that's another stress area. But neither of those are appearing in the top streets at the moment. So that's good news.
Yeah, thanks for that question. I frequent New Briggate and Merrion Street, so I know that it's busy. You don't see a lot of trouble down there, though. So maybe what Sue's saying bears out. It's sort of places aren't open as late, I don't think, so maybe that's it. But yeah, very good question. Thanks, Councillor Bowden. Do I have any other questions from members, please? No? Yes, Councillor Carlo. Yep.
This goes back to what Councillor Buckley was says, which is I've written here systemic stupidity. So with regards to the thefts from the particular store, like they were putting bottles of wine right next to an open door which opens straight onto the street. They don't do that anymore, but we can't legislate for that kind of actions from licensed venues.
Okay. In which case, we'll turn to page 21. Do you want any closing remarks? Are you okay with that? No. Page 21 then. We're asked to consider the draft CIA and approve public consultation. And we're all happy with that? Cool. Thank you very much. And thanks again, Sue, for all the work that you do. I'm sure you were able to hear firsthand there the appreciation from all the members on this committee and how valued it is, as I said in my opening remarks. Agenda item number 8 then, which is time and date of the next committee meeting, which is the 25th of November at 10 o'clock. And thank you all for your time here today. I know some of you have travelled quite far for this meeting, so thank you very much. See you all next time. Oh, sorry. Can we just say I didn't know whether I didn't read this, and I wasn't sure whether you wanted this to be public. And yeah, let's do that. Just wait 2 seconds.